Hi there. Welcome to Mentors. I'm Kiki Winters, and this podcast is about how people have grown throughout their life and how they've used mentors to help them reach their goals of where they are today, and then how they mentor other people. So today we're with our guest, Deborah Colleen Rose, and I'd like to welcome you to the program. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, if you could just tell everyone about, you know, you've done so much in your life. Just, I can't even begin to tell about how many things that you've got on your website. I didn't know where to start. So, whatever you're focused on and want to talk about, please go ahead and dive in.
Well, I always tell people I kind of feel like a Lego statue or figurine because it's just like we keep putting one Lego on top of another on top of another. I started out initially as a consultant with Wayne Computers, and then I married a man and we opened up a bail bond company years ago, and I was a bounty hunter, and that led me to being in the PI business, and I still have a PI company. And because of all the things I dealt with in the PI business, I learned that I had some things to share with people. So I started doing coaching, but we didn't call it coaching back then. We called it just helping out. And because of some mental health issues with my children, I wound up being a mental health advocate, and that got me a contract with NAMI, Texas, as their education director for several years. So that led me into doing officially coaching and training other people to be coaches and doing handwriting therapy, and I still do that. And because I've always been very intuitive, and that's really what I guess we should probably focus on, because I use that in everything that I do. Um, I have an entertainment business that focuses on offering intuitive gifts and intuitive readings to people, but from an entertainment perspective. So it's kind of different. And, a lot of people have mixed emotions about that. But so I go in a lot of different directions. And I literally change hats 4 or 5 times a day on what I do. So
Yeah, I use my hats for decoration. I've got so many, and as well as boots. But anyway, we're from Texas, so we can do that.
well, one of my favorite hats I got from Sky Pony years ago before y'all moved up north. So, and I wear it. It's the black one with the seashells and things all around. It's one of my favorite hats. So,
Thank you. A little plug for Sky Pony.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Love Sky Pony.
Well, speaking of Sky Pony, you will be there on Sunday the 20th, July the 20th, and we're excited about that. And that is your entertainment business. If you want to talk a little bit about that, please.
I do want to, because I'm real proud of it in the sense that it makes me happy. All of my life, with everything I did, it always seems like that I was dealing with human sadness and human misery because, doing investigations and coaching, there was always an element of sadness or need there. And with Miles of Smiles Entertainment, I was finally able to find a place where I could use my gifts, my spiritual gifts, and do it in a way that made people happy and encourage them and empower them and uplift them. That's what we like to say about that. And I have a team. They're all gifted. I tell people that with Miles of Smiles, we're entertainers first, but we're entertainers using our gifts. So we're all intuitive readers on some level or some capacity. On some of us, we on several levels. They're readers, Reiki healers, energy healers, things of that nature. And so we bring the real gifts to the table, but we do it in a way that it's very quick. We see people, the way I like to put it is we see people the way God intended for them to be seen. And we see their good qualities, and we will remind them of who they are in the universe and what role they can play in the universe. And we uplift them and we encourage them. I remember one of the first parties I worked at as an intuitive reader, one of the readers sitting across from me was telling this person that they were going to get a divorce, and there was an unplanned pregnancy involved, but, and I'm like, why are you doing that? First of all, in the event industry, we only have maybe 5 to 10 minutes with someone, and that's if we're lucky, because it's boom, 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 boom. But why would you tell somebody something that would bring them down or discourage them, especially in a party venue? You know what I'm saying? And so I am adamant. I am absolutely adamant on how we present ourselves. Me and the whole team, we vet everyone, and by vetting, I mean not only that they have to display their gifts. I also, being a private investigator, I do a background check on them. You know, because I'm sending these people off to other people's homes. I want my clients to know that they're safe with my people, and they don't have to worry about them being a serial killer, you know, or a bank robber. And I say that in jest, but I actually dated a bank robber years ago. So, I mean, that's something on the forefront of my mind.
You told me that story a long time ago, and I still remember it too. That was cool.
It's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah, so
Just so the world knows, Kiki and I decided years ago after talking that we were like fifth or sixth cousins somewhere down the line. You remember that conversation?
I do. And I know, and look at our hair color. It's even the same color.
Yes, yes. And our lives kind of reverse image each other, you know? It was just weird that we had so many similarities that were different, but they were similar. It was just, I don't know, it was refreshing, I thought. It was uplifting, you know?
You know, among the many things that I've wanted to do in life, and usually I end up doing them if I want to bad enough. But I always wanted to be a private investigator ever since I read every one of the Nancy Drew books growing up, and I had all the hardbacks. That was my gift, you know, that my family always gave me, was another Nancy Drew hardback, and I had the whole collection. And so, yeah, I guess that led me to writing. You know, Nancy Drew was my mentor.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And so we both write. She wanted to be an investigator. I am an investigator. She's a wonderful artist. I have several pieces of your art in my home. I have this beautiful wood piece that you did with turquoise over my fireplace. And I always wanted to be an artist, but I don't have an artistic bone in my body. But I do have, at this point, 37 books on Amazon. So
good for you.
but most of them are curriculums, you know, they're like mental health curriculums. I just published one last week called Side by Side, which teaches people how to be a companion to young adults that are on the spectrum. So I'm looking forward to breaking that out and start sharing that with people and maybe even teaching from it. So
good. I'd like you to mentor me about self-publishing when we go down that road a little
oh,
bit
sure,
further.
it's easy. It is so easy. People are would shocked when they see how easy it is, you know.
Well, that's what this show's all about, is how people can help others. And we'll have your links in the description below after this show so people can find you. So um, tell me, what have you had mentors that have helped you, and how they've helped you in your past, and you know, getting on your road?
I have three people I think that are impactful in my life. My first one was my grandmother when I was a young child. And she's the one that helped me to understand about spiritual gifts. She was a Christian, she was Pentecostal, you know, speaking in tongues, you know, laying of hands, that type of thing. And I remember having lots of conversations with her about that when I was 4 years old. She had a prayer language, and she was said that no one could understand, but I understood it beautifully. I understood, or at least I felt like I did, and I would tell her what she was saying in her prayers. So she's the one that laid the groundwork for me of that there was more past our bodies. And I remember one time though, she liked to mess with me a little bit, and she was telling me that she could see spirits. And I said, well, do you see people? She goes, I don't see people so much. She goes, I see other beings. And I said, like what? And she goes, well, like demons. And I said, do you see demons right now? She goes, yeah, there's one right by you. And she was just teasing, you know. But I was standing outside her little laundry area and I jumped 10 feet and I wouldn't go back there for years, you know, but I was only 4. So it really impacted me. But just to be specific for this interview, I am classified as a Christian mystic because that's where my core belief system is as a Christian. And but most churches don't like me. And they don't agree with me.
Keep talking. I'll be right back. You just keep talking.
Oh, okay, okay. So anyway, as a Christian mystic, I believe really firmly in the spiritual gifts. I believe that we're intended to live both physically and spiritually. I don't think there's a better example of living in our gifts than Jesus. You know, he walked on water, he turned water to wine, he raised the dead, he did healing. So to me, it just makes perfect sense that if you're a follower of Christ, which is the definition of Christian, then you would live or do your best to live as supernaturally as possible. I mean, because to me, that there's nothing more magical than that. And you say that in church, that gets you a lot of weird looks. And I've been asked to leave church a couple of times, you know. I don't care. It's all right. So, but it's really funny. Most of my Christian friends classify me as a pagan, and most of my pagan friends say, you know, I'm a really good Christian. So, you know, whatever. As long as they want to be around me, I don't care. So,
Well, people like to put others into categories so that they can understand or classify somebody in their mind. But really, life is more free flowing than the labels that we're given. And I certainly don't fit into any pegs, I guess you'd call it.
yeah.
People try
Well,
to.
you know, Christians will sometimes ask me, well, what's the deal with crystals and all that hoo-ha? And I'm like, well, why did God make them if we weren't intended to use them or if they didn't have a purpose? Why are there so many colors? Why are there so many textures in this world? You know, he didn't do that just so that we could revel in that in the physical, you know, enjoyment of just looking at something because it's pretty. There's a purpose. Everything has its purpose, whether we like it or whether we agree with it. So to me, there's no conflict with understanding that everything has its own energy. And if it has its own energy, then how do we incorporate that in our lives? Or do we even want to? There's some things I don't want around me because I don't like its energy. And because we are energy inside these fleshy bodies, that means that we also have the power of healing. And, you know, that's hard for people to wrap their head around a lot of times. And of course, you know, a lot of people said my grandmother was crazy. So for most of my life, to be honest, I was very underground with my beliefs and my gifts. I used them, but I didn't tell people I was using them, you know. And finally, my real mentor in this spiritual realm idea was a friend of mine named Sharon Cody. And she was my friend, and she was also my mentor, and she was also my business partner with my nonprofit, the Council of Families for Children, which is a mental health nonprofit. And, you know, I just kept telling her, no, I just love God. I'm not really gifted. And, you know, I get blessings. And she's like, sit your butt down. And she had, oh my gosh, she had, I guess, 5 or 6 pages of questions. And she goes, we're not leaving the office today until you answer all of these questions. And we went through them, and I would say no to all of them. And then she would point out why I was wrong and I should be answering yes. And it took us about 4.5 hours to get through those questions. And when we got through, I think out of 100 questions, I answered 98 yes. And she goes, now, are you going to argue with me anymore? And I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. But what do I do with this information? And then she started her initiation of mentoring me and how to use my gifts and be able to stay in alignment with my integrity and also my belief system. And that changed my whole life.
Yes. My grandmother also was one of my mentors, many, but she influenced me as far as being in the entrepreneurial field, and she was a real estate agent, but a go-getter. I think the first female real estate agent in Oak Cliff in
Oh,
Dallas.
wow.
And so anyway, she kind of made me, paid for my fashion merchandising career because I wanted to be a fashion designer, I thought. But you know how life takes its turns and gets us down the road and where we are today. But I wanted to know also, you probably are aware of mentoring others too. So do you have any stories where you've worked with people and mentoring them?
I was thinking about that question earlier when I saw the email, and I realized that I mentor a lot of different ways. And I have little short mini sessions that I do, and then I have long-term sessions. So some of these things are me mentoring people for free, and then there's paid clients, paying clients. But based on the feedback that I get when we're working at parties and events, I'm mentoring people at those things, even though I get to spend 5 or 10 minutes with them, because I get to remind people of their good qualities, especially when we're doing handwriting analysis or lip print readings, but more so with those actually than when we're doing card readings and other things. But I remind them of who they are, and they will go, oh yeah, that reminds me of this dream I had or what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I encourage them to explore that. And one of the biggest things I will tell them at the parties is that go back and remember who you were when you were 3 years old and what your passion was and what excited you. And then how do you incorporate that into this world? For me, I wanted to be a cowgirl. Seriously, I know that sounds stupid. And all the other girls wanted to grow up and be Barbie, or they wanted to be ballerinas or princesses. I wanted to be a cowgirl. And I was like, why? Why did I want to be a cowgirl? And I realized what it represented to me. Freedom, riding the range, sleeping out under the stars, no one there to boss you around. Also being able to do what men did and not having to stay in the kitchen. I grew up in the generation where you're supposed to stay in that kitchen and raise children and tote that barge and lift that bell, And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do what the men folk in my family did. I wanted to be outdoors. I wanted to be around animals. I loved horseback riding when I was growing up. And once I realized that that's where my passion lay, I was able to better seek that out. And do I live out on a farm? No, but I don't really want to do farm work. So, but it's about being comfortable outdoors and being aware of that. And I think I'm probably one of the most free women I know as far as doing what I want to and living like a man and still retaining my femininity and that type of thing. So I like to think I'm mentoring people in these little short sessions. But I think that as far as like if I'm mentoring someone, then again, I have people I mentor that are dealing with mental health issues, and that's a free service. I ran a suicide hotline for many years where I took calls, and I don't do that anymore because I'm getting too old for that, but I need my sleep. But I help parents and young adults with those things and give them resources. I have lots of resources and ideas and things of that nature. And that's why I just wrote my newest book about, being a companion with someone who is on the spectrum. Most people just, everybody knows what the spectrum is now, or they think they do, but they don't know how to relate, and they don't know how to take their compassion and their empathy and apply it because. And if you look at the cover of the book, I just think the cover is so apropos. It's two globes that are plugged into each other. So it's two worlds plugged in to one another. And that's exactly what we're dealing with when we're dealing with someone that's on the spectrum. They have their world and you have your world, and you got to get plugged in and know what the two are like and how they're alike, but how they're different. So, and then I have, the paid clients, and my biggest joy is working with married couples. Now, okay, so this is kind of my jab at churches. Married couples on the brink of divorce that had gone to Christian counseling and it didn't work.
A tag right there.
I love working with those couples, and I've worked with many of them, and I haven't lost one yet. So, I mean, many that they didn't get divorced. When they came to me, they were on the brink of, all of them were on the brink of divorce. And so, you know, it's being able to meet them on their terms and their understanding, and then have them set the commitment that they do not want a divorce. If they want a divorce, where are we going to go? There's no place to go. I'm not going to facilitate their divorce. But if they both say they do not want a divorce, then we're able to set standards and goals and guidelines and work through that while we're also acknowledging the pain and hurt that they've experienced. And haven't lost one yet. And it saddens me and it angers me on how many of them have told me they've gone to Christian counseling, and one of the partners always walks away from that counseling feeling like the guilty party. You can't repair a marriage if someone feels guilty. That makes them to a subservient and a downtrodden position. I mean, you can't have a marriage with one partner feeling like that. That doesn't work. So.
Do you counsel in your home, or you go out to their place, or?
Yes, to both of those. You know, or we can Zoom. I mean, Zoom is the best thing that's ever happened as far as I'm concerned. I love it. It's broadened my ability to reach more people, you know, in other countries, in other states, that type of thing. I prefer meeting in person because, you know, energy is a lot. And, you know, this is lovely, but the energy doesn't travel as well. It just doesn't. So.
Right. It better in person when you have that chance, but you can reach more, even nationwide or worldwide.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and what's the name of your book on the spectrum?
Side by Side.
Okay. And people can find more of your books online through Amazon, is that correct?
Yes, if you go to Amazon and just type in my full name, like you see at the bottom of the screen here, Deborah Colleen Rose. I'm not being pretentious. It's just easier to brand yourself if you use your middle name. You know, there's a lot of Deborah Roses in the world, but there's not. I seem to be the only Deborah Colleen Rose, so it's easier to find me.
Right. Well, then let's see. As far as your I want to go back to your investigating,
Oh gosh.
just because you know I'm curious about that. But so did you, tell us how you got involved with that in the beginning, like.
Okay, that was a progression of talk about going where the wind blows you. That's how that happened. I was working for Wang and Honeywell Computers in a think tank in my early 20s, and I got married. And the man that I married was in the bail bond business. And that's where you get people out of jail if you don't know. And he wanted to open up his own bail bond business. So I did. I got the money together and we opened that up. And shortly after we opened up the business, he died of a heart attack. And he was in recovery, and he had just basically destroyed his body, and it just gave out on him. He was clean and sober when he died, but he had a heart attack. So I'm running a bail bond business that basically 6 months prior to that, I didn't even know where the jail was in Dallas County because I was in corporate America and was having to run this, and I had a child to raise. And so I did that for a couple of years. And if you don't know this, if you post a bond for someone to get out of jail and they don't go to court, you've got to put them back in jail. And I'm kind of cheap, and I didn't want to pay a bounty hunter to do that. And so I did my own bounty hunting, and I did that for a while and decided that maybe, because I had a child to raise, that maybe this was a little too dangerous for me to be doing, because I got the crap beat out of me one night.
Uh-oh.
And I was actually incapacitated because I had a concussion for about 3 days. And I thought, this is not good. My child's already lost one parent. He needs another. Just be here. So it just kind of, I started thinking about how to what direction I wanted to go. I didn't want to go back to corporate America, and I stumbled on the PI company that was going out of business. And I knew marketing left and right. And I said, give me 6 months and I'll build up your business and then we'll talk because I'm going to want to be a partner. Well, I did. I built it up. And the day that we had a meeting scheduled, this is hilarious. I go in to meet her, and in come the Dallas Sheriff's Department, and they arrest her because she'd been doing illegal information, and she went to jail, and she lost her PI business. So I'm like, okay. And I just kind of started my own from there. And that's what I've been doing ever since, as far as that goes.
And it's still up and running?
Yep. And not only is it up and running, I also have a continuing education school license to where I can train other PIs and help them get continuing education credits and that type of thing. And most of my clients are either law firms where they can't, they're stuck. They're just literally stuck. Or there are other private investigators. I don't do divorces. I do more corporate fraud and due diligence and things of that nature now. So,
well, maybe you can mentor me in that department, because
sure.
I've always wanted to be Nancy Drew.
Well, absolutely. In fact, it's funny that you said that, because I just realized I had a mentoring program for over 10 years. And there was just one rule. You got to go get your own clients, because you have to have at least 3 years experience to start your own PI company. Okay. And so I would tell people, I will mentor you for 3 years and then you go get your own license, or you can stay with me and we'll just do a split,
Oh, cool.
And most people realize that while they wanted to be a PI, they did not want to market, and very few of them followed through with getting their own clients. But if they went and got their own clients, I did a 50-50 split with them.
Okay.
And that was like triple what they'd be making as a PI employee for another company. And so there was, a good amount of money available on the table to them. But to be a small business in this world, you've got to be a jack of all trades, wearing all different hats. You've got to market, you've got to advertise, you got to do your books, you got to do customer service, and then you get to do the job, So, and I was teaching them all of that. And a few people made it through to the end, but a few didn't. So, yeah.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing you at Sky Pony Gallery in Plano, Texas on
Oh, it's gonna be so
Sunday,
much fun.
the 20th, from 1 to 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, let me tell everybody what they can expect. We're gonna have 2 people there that are gonna be doing card readings.
Okay, we're running close to out of time, so
Okay, real quick. Card readings. We're gonna have a young girl that's doing portraits on the iPad, and she'll text them to you, and she's a fabulous artist. We have essential oils that are being custom made on site, and we have a crystal healing bed that you're going to adore by Mama Kay. So, gotta come. Gotta
yes,
come.
we'll see you there. And thank you, Deborah Colleen Rose. It was so good to see you, cousin,
Yes,
redheaded stepchild.
I know, isn't that the truth?
Me too.
I adore you, and I look forward to seeing you Sunday.
I do too. So check you later.
All right, take care.
And
Bye,
thanks for
everybody.
being a mentor for all that you've helped along the way.
All right,
And
call
you
me.
continue to help. So
All right,
take care.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.